The Life of Megan Mossing by Megan Mossing. My name is Megan Mossing. I was born on March 10th, 1987, to Richard Mossing and Lynn Andrews. I have one sister, two brothers, and eventually further into the story, I have 3 stepbrothers and 1 stepsister. I went to Whittier Elementary and DeVoe Junior High. I met my best friend Shannon in 1st grade, and my first boyfriend, Damien. My childhood was a pretty good one. I was in basketball and softball, and my parents made sure that they took us on a family vacation at least once a year. In the middle of my 8th grade year, my parents split up, and my mom moved her and I down to Tennessee to live with her high school sweetheart. I started going to Lake City Middle School and Anderson County High School. This is where I met my 2 road dogs, Candace and Timmy. Unfortunate circumstances made it to where I moved out on my own when I was 15 years old. You may be wondering why I don't have more pictures of my friend Timmy. That's because shortly after I moved back from Tennessee to Michigan with my Aunt Jackie, right after I turned 17, he passed away from a drug overdose. It was the first time I had someone pass that was close to me from drugs. I think about him and what he could have been all the time. After moving to my aunt's, I lived with my brother for a short while. In that short time, I managed to go back to where my original high school was and hopefully graduate with my friends that I grew up with before I moved. Me and Damien met back up and got a house together. Needless to say, they put me in the wrong classes and told me it was going to be another year until I graduate. So I left high school shortly after that. My relationship fell through and I was homeless. I couldn't go to my dad because he had remarried and my stepmother did not want me living with them. I asked my mother, but since situations happened with her husband and I that led to me moving out in the first place, she did not want me to move back with her either. At this time, I still had my job at Taco Bell, so I would stay there some nights. And there were a few times that I had to sleep on a park bench, and it was winter. So, yeah. A guy named Junior, which ended up being one of my best friends, asked me if I wanted to stay with him until I was able to get my own place. So I did. A few years went by, and I found myself back at my Aunt Jackie's trying to get my diploma before I was too old to get it for free, and working to be a manager at McDonald's. One day, just a regular day, I received a phone call from my mother at work. "Megan, I'm sorry to bother you at work, but I need to tell you something. Terry died yesterday." "Mom, I'm getting off work and I'll be right there." Now, Terry is my stepfather. Shortly after his death, I dropped and left everything and moved down to Tennessee to help my mother. This is James. He was my boyfriend and decided that he wanted to move down to Tennessee with me. Shortly after moving down, he proposed to me. About a month later, we found out that I was pregnant. James and I moved back to Toledo with my sister 4 months into my pregnancy. August 31st, 2010 was when I saw my beautiful baby girl for the first time. She was perfect. The name Cecilia Marie just seemed to fit her. I knew I wanted a better life, not only just for me, but for her as well. So I started going to GED classes. January 15th, 2013 was one of the hardest days of my life. My father, best friend, and the only one in my life that I could trust had passed away suddenly from cancer. I was completely lost in the world without him. I remember thinking, what do I do? And every time I thought that question, I would hear a reply in my head from my dad: "Go back to school. You're nothing without an education." So that is what I did. Within 3 weeks, I went and took my GED test, passed with flying colors, and started college at Owens Community College. And I have loved every second of it. I left James, and I went and got my theater degree, and in the process, I also took extra acting intensive classes in Akron, Ohio, with Pro Model and Talent Management. After that, Pro Model signed a contract with me, and I have been in 6 commercials, 5 including some really awesome people. The Cleveland Cavaliers, Josh Gad, that is the voice of Olaf in Frozen, Alicia Keys, and a few others. I even did a commercial for the community that I live in, Point Place. I now have my theater degree, and I'm going back for my broadcasting degree. I met the love of my life 5 years ago, and we have been together since. I have not always had a perfect life, but I make it as perfect as it can be.